There are two types of people in the world, good and bad, and by a cruel twist of fate, the two are often drawn together. This is the story of Marta Chmielecka, who was very much an example of a good person, and indeed someone very bad found her. And no matter how hard she fought, they just wouldn't let her be free. The more Marta pulled away, the stronger the force of evil became, dragging her down, holding her back, and eventually her worst fears would become her reality. Viewer discretion is advised for this educational documentary. Welcome or welcome back to CASE Documentaries. I bring you true crime, disturbing stories and other things that you may later regret knowing, with regular uploads every week. Please do join the quickly growing, incredibly supported CASE family by hitting subscribe now and turning on notifications. Thank you so much to all of my patrons. If your name is on screen right now, then you're a legend. Let's get straight into today's dark case. Our love and respect goes out to all those that knew and loved Marta. Marta Chmielecka was born in 1990 in Poland. She grew up with her brother and her parents. She was doted on by her mother and adored by her father. Not too much is known about her younger life, but what we do know is that her brother moved to England at some point with his wife and children, and then Marta followed on July 29th, 2016. She embarked on this new adventure at the time with her new husband, Pawel Chmielecka. The couple settled in a town named Kettering. The town was close to Marta's brother, wife, and their little family. From the outside, Pawel and Marta seemed happy at their new home. Social media posts gathered from Marta's account showed that the couple visited cafes and bars, they frequently went on walks, and they explored the little town of Kettering. In reality though, Marta lived under the thumb of a jealous and oppressive man, a man that used violence to control her. This was a situation that Marta wanted to escape from, and eventually she did. In 2020, she found the strength to escape her wreck of a marriage. A social media post a few years down the road told the public why she stayed so long with Pawel and how much she came to regret it. It read, "One of the worst mistakes a person can make is wasting years of life waiting for another person to change or develop." That's a translation from Polish. She gave her crass BMW-loving husband more chances than he probably deserved, and her family agreed that the relationship went on for far too long. They described Marta as kind, cheerful, smart, hard-working, and exceptional. After her separation from Pawel, she managed to get back on her feet. She even established a new network of friends outside of her ex-husband's influence. She got an exciting new job and even began to see someone new. Her brother's family came to depend on her a lot, the children especially. To their two daughters, Marta was the amazing aunt that they just couldn't live without. They celebrated every event together as a family, and they were looking forward to a lifetime of happiness, spending it all together. Kettering is a small market and industrial town in Northamptonshire, England. It's 67 miles north of London. It's also the location of the United Kingdom's oldest theme park, Wicksteed Park, and it's said that over 15 million people have visited it since its inception nearly 100 years ago. Overall, it didn't seem like a bad place to start over. There were plenty of job opportunities, as well as welcoming communities that accept diverse visitors and new residents. Marta had only been living in Kettering for 4 years before the events in this case unfolded. Pawel Chmielecka was obsessed with Marta even after their separation. Their divorce was stalled because it required them both to visit Poland to make it all official. But just because Marta was done with Pawel didn't mean that Pawel was done with Marta. The police reported that he stalked, made threats, and was even violent towards Marta after their relationship had ended. One of his most popular methods of hounding Marta was on social media, publicly. In March of 2021, Pawel posted a photo of Marta along the caption, "This smile will stay with me forever." Marta didn't obviously respond, but the messages must have affected her, given their history. It was evidence of a past that she was trying to gain distance from, distance that Pawel simply refused to give. The few people that he knew described him as self-important and obsessed with maintaining a macho image. He made it a point to show everyone he could that he was a lover of cars, of women, and of boxing. It was obvious on his social media as well. After their separation, Pawel made it a habit of keeping tabs on Marta. He wanted to know who her friends were, where she lived, and what sorts of activities she'd been getting up to without him. He likely knew what gym she worked out at, that she spent a lot of time with her family at the beach, and that she loved music and would listen to it whenever she could. He might have even known about Marta's mother coming to visit in October. He made it his mission to maintain the control that he once held over Marta. In Pawel's mind, he hadn't truly lost her. Since the divorce hadn't been finalized, there was a small hope in his mind that they could eventually get back together. All of this changed though when he learnt about a budding relationship between Marta and a co-worker. Now seemingly furious, Chmielecka intercepted Marta on her way home on October 15th, 2021. Marta was stopped by her estranged husband while she was on her way back from a social event with her friends at Woodland Court. The time was 10:54, and CCTV footage captured Marta as she made her way down Wood Street, taking her usual route towards home. When she arrived at the street, her estranged husband made his way out of his apartment and down onto the main road. He made a beeline straight for her. An argument broke out, during which Marta ended up on the ground. The CCTV was not clear, but it certainly looked like he'd probably struck her, despite her protests. Chmielecka was determined to talk to her about her new lover. After helping her to her feet, he led her towards his apartment. She tried resisting him by collapsing to the floor in what appeared to be a coughing fit, but he dragged her up to her feet. This is the real CCTV footage of that event. When Marta refused to follow him, he carried her into his apartment with a forceful bear hug, all while he whispered, "Come on now, it's not far." And this was the last time anybody saw Marta alive. Chmielecka took a picture of Marta on the floor of his apartment at around 10:56, and then he took another picture of her along with her new boyfriend's chat history. To keep people from looking for her, Pawel sent a few messages with her phone. When she didn't show up at her office the very next morning, her friends from work were immediately worried. However, it was the bogus message that Pawel constructed to impersonate Marta that actually drew the unwanted attention, especially from his sister-in-law. The sister-in-law knew of Marta's past with Pawel, so she immediately went over to his apartment to look for her. Whilst there, nobody answered the door, so she did what any good sister-in-law would do. She dialed 999 and informed the police of Chmielecka's history of abuse. 4 days had now passed since Marta disappeared. Now the 19th of October, police arrived at Pawel's flat. They forced entry as captured on body cam footage. Upon entry, they immediately found Marta already passed. She was laying on Pawel's bedroom floor with 32 wounds across her entire body, and the 40-year-old Pawel injured beside her. He had a sharp implement sticking out of his neck. He was quickly losing vital fluids from 9 self-inflicted markings. Pawel Chmielecka was on the fast track to prison thanks to the mountain of evidence they found in his apartment, but the police investigation continued, strengthening the case. The detectives of the East Midlands Special Operations Unit looked into Pawel's personal life to uncover a jealous, controlling, and small man. Though it was the CCTV footage that they found that was the most damning, as well as the sharp implement used in the murder still being present at the scene. According to a post-mortem examination, Marta's body was covered in 32 different injuries. Over 19 of the 32 were inflicted on the face and neck, and it was these that the examiner determined to be the cause of her death. Marta also received 7 defensive wounds to her right hand, 5 to her shoulder and upper arm, and 1 to the left of her chest. Allegedly, disturbingly, Pawel also used the same implement to cut pizza after doing the deed. 2 days after Marta's death, Pawel was even caught on CCTV visiting the shop to buy beer and soft drinks. It also didn't help Pawel's case that he had ample motive and opportunity to do what he did. The actions he carried out on that night made it nearly impossible for him to put up an adequate defense against the charges leveled against him. The phone he used to impersonate Marta, as well as his own device, which he had used to photograph Marta after her capture, was still present in the apartment during the police search. After receiving treatment for his self-inflicted injuries, Pawel was sent to jail to wait for his trial on October 21st, 2021. He remained uncooperative during the investigation, even going as far as to deny all previous episodes of physical maltreatment leveled towards Marta. However, the withholding of information did not help him when the trial eventually started. Pawel Chmielecka's trial began on September 6, 2022. Marta's family had to wait for almost an entire year to see justice. The evidence against Pawel was presented to Judge David Herbert, KC. The court and public saw pictures of the scene, the weapon, along with several messages, recordings and photos of Pawel threatening Marta. The crowning jewel of the prosecution, though, was the confession that Pawel already gave in Crown Court on March 3, 2022. He finally admitted to killing Marta after confronting her about her new lover, but he still denied physically touching her. Marta's family watched from the public gallery as Judge Herbert sentenced Pawel Chmielecka for ending his estranged wife's time on this earth. They said, "It is clear from the evidence that Marta was scared of you and was frightened that you would end up killing her. Those last moments of her life would have been utterly terrifying as you jabbed her repeatedly. You accept you intended to kill her and must then have watched her die in a pool of her own vital fluids. The only sentence that can be imposed for the offence of murder is life imprisonment, and that is what I impose on you." So, Pawel was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 18 years and 4 months. This was reduced to 16 years and 170 days because of the time that he had already spent in custody. Detective Superintendent Joe Banfield, who led the Northants Major Crime Unit, spoke outside the courtroom after the trial.
Marta was exceptional. She was full of life, she was kind, cheerful, helpful and smart. You never had to ask her for help. She was always just there for us, whatever we needed. She loved our children and was a fantastic auntie to them both. Marta was definitely a daddy's girl too. They had such a bond and such a loving relationship. After her death, her father began stuttering and now finds it very hard to communicate at all. He has really suffered, as have we all. Marta had so many plans and dreams. She was independent and confident, and we loved her so much. It's never going to be the same without her. Losing Marta has changed our whole lives.